Welcome back as we get ready for the A's and Rockies tonight from Coors Field, the very same Coors Field that's going to host the All-Star Game this summer. July 13th, meaning we're only about 5 to 6 weeks away. And that has to bring us to this obvious topic: which Oakland A's players should be in consideration and the conversation? Brody Brazil with Dave Stewart. Oh, well, the segment's over. We just gave it all away. Here's our 5. But no, in all seriousness, and there's actually a 6th who's not even depicted here. In all seriousness, though, we should probably dissect one by one and the chances for each to get in, and maybe are they even in the conversation, because we also know this is kind of a popularity contest, the way voting works. There's strength at certain positions that might help or hurt a player. But let's begin with Mark Canha, the guy who I feel right now deserves our biggest push to. Leading the majors in, well, hit by pitches, I'll put that aside. Runs scored at 46. He's also 5th in the American League in on-base percentage and tied for 7th in walks. He gets on base, he scores runs, does his thing, Stu, and oh yeah, he can also play outfield pretty steadily. And
I'll tell you why he's also a good fit, because he plays multiple positions.
Right.
This is a guy that you can fit in all 3 outfield spots, but he also plays first base in the infield.
Yep.
But even more importantly, he's leading the league in some categories.
Right.
When we talk about run scores,
yeah.
He's leading the league in categories. And so I tell you what does happen, though. I believe that this guy should, if he continues to play the way he is, he belongs on that All-Star team. I think that we also have to remember in this, fans, you got to vote these guys in. Get out and make sure you vote. But the other part of this is, in first years, which people will say this is his first year
of consideration.
Of consideration.
Right.
A lot of times you get forgotten in that first year.
Right.
But for me, for what he's done for this team,
absolutely,
the multiple positions that he's played for this team, leadoff hitter in his first year, having to do that on a consistent basis, and the job that he's doing in that position, he's got my vote. I promise you, I'm not just saying this because I'm an obvious homer. Mark Canha, I agree with you, should be there. The next guy we're going to talk about here, maybe a tougher case to make only because of the current injury situation. Laureano, we're going to know more about his timeline coming up soon with the hip, but apparently he's going to be out longer than the 10-day injured list. Outside of that, Stu, the start he had to this season, the personality he is, the player he is, I mean, outside of the injury, he should be there. Well, I mean, he's done it all. I mean, this guy is showing that he's got the chance to be that 5-tool player.
Yes.
And one thing that he has done in this league is he's made his name. People understand and they know who this kid is defensively, but where he's taken a step up for me is he's starting to show that he's a good offensive player, a solid offensive player. Not just at the plate, but he creates havoc on the bases. This guy is a guy that just standing at the plate represents a run. And so, once again, this is not a difficult vote for me. I got to say, Brody, if there's anybody that's got a chance to make this team, even though he's not healthy, it's Laureano.
He'll be there eventually. We're not worried about that, but hopefully it's sooner than later.
Yes.
If there's a guy I need to see at least at the Home Run Derby in Colorado at a mile high, how can we not get some Matty-O bombs from pulling him to right field out there at Coors Field? He obviously still comes in with all the prowess, and the question is like this: if not Ole at first base in the American League, who else you got?
Well, I quite frankly don't know. I mean, this guy has won back-to-back Gold Gloves.
Right.
Last year's the first year he doesn't win a Gold Glove,
which he should have.
But let's really look at it. The power numbers, the run production, the RBIs, along with the defense, makes him hands down the first baseman for me. And not just a guy that's selected. He's the starting first baseman for me.
All right. The next player here is kind of on the bubble, and again, one of those that will eventually be in the All-Star conversation. I don't know if this is the year or not, Stu, for Sean Murphy, but certainly this, if he is in the trajectory of our old friend Terry Steinbach, he will get there, and he will get his recognition. Having a pretty good season so far.
Yeah, he is. He's having a good year. He's having a very good year. Unfortunately, batting average is a little bit low.
Right.
But he does everything that you want to. I watched him closely last night. This guy does a great job behind the plate. He's not stealing pitches, but he does a great job of pitch framing, which is it's at the top of the list on guys behind the plate. In this day and time that we're playing the game, he does a great job of pitch framing. And I'll tell you what else he does. He's done a great job of recognizing and understanding and knowing the hitters from the opposition and putting down the right fingers. And then when you add in the other parts, which I think, as I said, this is going to come later, the more comfortable he is with handling the staff, the better he's going to be offensively, and you're going to start to see his average rise.
All right,
he is definitely an all-star of the future.
I agree with you on that completely. Last but not least, actually not even last and definitely not least, is the Oakland ace, Chris Bassitt. He's the subject of our first installment of All A's, which we'll talk about in just a second. But such a consistent start to this season. Love his efforts, love his personality, coming off the shutout, first of his career. If not Bassitt this year, what more does a guy have to do?
I think that when the opposing managers, because this is a selected position, this is not a voted position. I think that when the opposing managers turn in their ballots, their votes, I think that this is a guy that you could possibly see on all 30 ballots, on all 30 votes from the opposing managers. This guy has become the #1 guy in this rotation. He's the leader of this staff. He gives you all the right answers. He doesn't duck answers when it comes to interviews, and they probably don't know that when they're selecting this guy. But when you look at competitiveness and leading a staff and being the guy that you say, hey, who is my #1 guy and who don't I want to face?
Him.
This is the guy.
For everybody yelling right now, what about Yusmiero Petit? We get it. Like, it's just a harder position to crack when you're talking about the All-Star game, although he's been nails this year.